Folks here in New York are still reeling this morning from the stunning and swift downfall of the state's top law enforcement officer. Did you hear this story? The guy's name is Eric Schneiderman. He was accused of secretly abusing women. The attorney general of this state. He resigned this week after 4 women came forward, accusing him of physically assaulting them without their consent. He quickly, and I mean within like 3 hours, stepped down, despite denying ever having done any of the nonsense. Schneiderman was outwardly a huge supporter of the Me Too movement. Isn't that always how it goes? Right? It's like he's on his soapbox preaching about how wrong it is to abuse women, harass women, and now we have all these women coming out saying he was one of the abusers in chief. This is a guy who filed a lawsuit against the Weinstein Company and its founders, going after them for repeatedly violating laws against gender discrimination, he said, and sexual abuse. And Schneiderman was all over New York saying, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. I stand for women. Meanwhile, these 4 women were back in their apartments saying, really? So he's going to deal with his nonsense. But today we have on, to start the show, a woman who is near and dear to my own heart and somebody who knows firsthand about the allegations of sexual harassment involving Harvey Weinstein and, for that matter, my old boss, Roger Ailes. Lauren Sivan is among the brave women, and she was one of the first who have spoken out against Harvey Weinstein. In fact, she spoke out against him for the first time even before that New Yorker piece broke by Ronan Farrow, even before that. And she came on this show to tell her story exactly 7 months ago today, right here in this studio. Watch. For Lauren Sivan, it's been a watershed year. It started 7 months ago when she became the first woman to go on national TV, publicly accusing producer Harvey Weinstein of sexual misconduct.
There's that feeling that I'm sure so many women feel of shame.
Last fall, I sat down with Sivan for her first television interview on that subject, discussing her experience with the now disgraced Hollywood powerhouse.
And that's when I really saw the red flags and, you know, oh, this is not good.
She says when she was a young journalist, Weinstein cornered her near the kitchen of a Manhattan restaurant where they were having dinner, and he proceeded to pleasure himself in front of her while blocking her from leaving.
It was disgusting and kind of pathetic, really, to stand there and look at this man, you know, but more than the disgusting act itself, which of course was gross, the demeaning part of it all, that just, you know, 20 minutes earlier he was having this great conversation with me and I felt so great.
Lauren said that incident spoke volumes, not only about Weinstein, but about the reality of sexual harassment.
The casualness that he had and just, you know, luring me down there and knew exactly what he was doing, that gave me the impression I was definitely not alone. I was definitely not the only one, and this goes on quite a bit.
This is a Fox News alert.
Lauren also says Weinstein was not the only powerful man to sexually harass her. She says she was harassed by Roger Ailes during her time at Fox News. Now Sivan has a new show on Oxygen called Abuse of Power, exploring different ways people can exploit positions of authority, from within families to law enforcement, even in religious organizations.
Fred Tokarz used and abused his connections and command of the law to grow his wealth and expand his power.
She's hopeful her experiences will help her help others. Lauren Sivan joins me now. Lauren, great to see you again.
Thank you for having me back.
Thanks for being here. Can you believe it was 7 months ago today?
No, and I feel like the world has completely changed.
Right?
Yes.
But you didn't know that was going to happen when you sat here.
No.
And you still, I mean, you were one of the first to come out against Harvey and the first to go on camera about him, still at great risk to yourself. I mean, now with the benefit of hindsight, how important do you think that moment was for you and for others?
It was a crucial moment. It was a crucial moment. And to be fair, I mean, I came out to kind of validate the other women that came out in the New York Times piece.
The New York Times piece
Ashley
hit.
Judd and Rose
then you
McGowan.
came out, and then the New York
Because I knew those women were telling the truth, and he was calling them liars, and so I knew better. But to see the amount of women, I mean, no one realized how prolific this guy was over 3 decades of this going on, how many victims he had.
Now we have the number of accusers with Harvey, I think, is around 100. Give or take, 100 women accusing him of everything from sexual harassment to outright rape.
Yeah, absolutely.
He denies, we should say, a spokesperson for the Weinstein, for Harvey Weinstein, has denied any allegations of non-consensual sex. You know, the numbers are so
think
big
the numbers
now.
speak for
I was like, we still have to say that.
Yeah.
But the viewers are smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
So how has your life changed in those 7 months?
Well, I never realized when I came on this show and I had to tell this kind of awkward, disgusting story that you know, that same week the floodgates would open and all of these women would come out. But what I really didn't realize was that it would actually change the culture. That all of a sudden women are being listened to. Women are being heard when they come forward with these allegations. Because as you know very well, for a woman before October of last year, there wasn't anywhere to come out to. And if you did try and speak out, it was a lose-lose for you. You either lost your reputation or your career, or you lost money, or you were smeared, called names. And so I think that part of it has changed, which is so wonderful to see. But of course, we have such a long way to go when it comes to ridding, you know, sexual harassment from the workplace.
One thing I didn't know when you were here talking about Harvey was that you'd been harassed by Roger Ailes, too, our old boss at Fox News. I mean, who went through a lot of women. I mean, myself included.
Yeah.
But we had never talked about that.
No, I mean, none of us at Fox News actually ever talked about it. I mean, to be honest with you, I was so young when I started working at Fox News. It was my first TV job. I didn't know what was appropriate and what wasn't appropriate. I just thought this was part of corporate America, that if your boss asks you to come into his office and twirl around for him, and he's allowed to tell you how you look. And I thought, oh, it's TV, right? I mean, that's part of the job. And he definitely made really inappropriate comments all the time. I didn't realize until later how inappropriate it was. And that it shouldn't have been something that everybody was okay with, myself included.
Can you tell us about the diaphragm trick that he tried to do with you or did with you?
Yeah. I was really young and I was coming up in news, and he gave me an on-air job there, and he told me he would meet with me in his office privately, as he did with most of the on-air talent there. He said, you're doing well, but I don't think you're projecting your voice well enough, and I need to make sure you're projecting your voice well. And as you know, Roger had this huge couch in his office that he was usually reclined on during meetings. And he made me come over to his lap so that he could feel my diaphragm when I was projecting. Don't get me wrong. I knew this was not okay. I mean, I knew that this was a weird situation and kind of inappropriate. But he was the boss. I mean, no one got on air there unless Roger gave the okay.
No one, whether you were a contributor or an anchor.
Nothing,
He had to approve you. I mean, I never went through that, but I know other women who he did that to.
Yeah.
Now I know. But I will say he thread the needle in a way that was, you knew it was wrong, but like he had plausible deniability. You know, like, well, it was your voice, you weren't projecting. And in my case, I remember he was saying, you know, I really need to see you more vulnerable. I need to see you more vulnerable. And then he'd say, we need to see each other outside the office. And then he said, I've never actually revealed this before, but one of the things he said was, you have to be the one to do it. Given the power imbalance, you have to be the one to do it. And I think now what he was saying was, you've got to initiate with me. Like, I'm telling you, I want you. And of course I never did, and I just laughed it off and got out of there and hoped it would de-escalate, and then instead it escalated, and I've written about all that in my book. But that abuse of power, you know, putting a woman in that position where she feels panicked. I mean, it's a moment of panic where you're like, oh my God, I don't want this to be happening, is one of the reasons why you're back on television telling women's stories. Because I know you've said that you've realized this can happen in the workplace setting, as it happened to us.
Absolutely.
But it can happen in a domestic setting. It can happen in law enforcement, like we saw with Eric Schneiderman, who was reportedly telling the women he was hitting, I am the law.
Yep.
When they were saying, I'm going to tell, that he was saying, I am the law. That's what the women allege. And so can you just tell us, 'cause I find this sort of like one of these moments for you to be on with this show, Abuse of Power.
This show, I mean, we all see abuse of power every day because it makes headlines, but abuse of power goes on in every walk of life, in every community. And so this show takes a look at, you know, not just big players and big names, it's inside the community, law enforcement, a local sheriff, a lawyer who just had such a great reputation and was so successful that people decided to look the other way when it came to some of his transgressions. And we see this day in and day out. Eric Schneiderman is a perfect example of abuse of power, because not only was he threatening these women, I am the law, but he was controlling them in such a way. I mean, that's what we saw in every episode of this show. It's not just the crimes that they commit and the transgressions they commit. It's the control they have over their victims. They control them psychologically, sometimes physically, to really disastrous ends. The one thing I will say about abuse of power is we do see these victims or these victims' families eventually get justice. Sometimes it takes weeks or months or years or decades to get justice because people won't believe them when they come forward with wrongdoings. And I hope, because of this show and because of this movement right now, that will change, that people will be believed.
Can I tell you, one of the other things I was thinking about was Schneiderman. So he was out there railing against Harvey and talking about women, and he was lauded.
He was in the Women's March.
Yeah, he was given awards by people for how he'd stand up for the women. Just, you know, in my experiences with Roger, there was one point in which he called me into his office and specifically said, because I was big for women. I've always been for women, female empowerment.
Absolutely.
You know, I wrestle with the term feminist just because I think it implies a broader embrace of things news anchors shouldn't be taking opinions on. But, and he said to me, no more women's empowerment stuff. I don't want to hear anything more about that. And I said, you don't get to tell me that.
That's right.
You don't get to control that.
That's right.
But it's like the control, right? The control aspect, which I know you're featuring in the show. And the opening episode is about this woman who marries this lawyer who seems it's like awesome, and he's very well respected, and he's a judge. And the truth comes out about who he is. I'm so happy to see you.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, my pleasure.
And thank you for everything you do for women. Thank you.
Because we're a news organization, I want to read this to you. It's a Schneiderman statement, who has not yet been convicted of any crime, and he's released this, saying, in the privacy of intimate relationships, I've engaged in role-playing and other consensual activity. I have not assaulted anyone. For that matter, I will point out that Roger Ailes, before he died, denied sexually harassing anybody, but I will also point out that I know it's true because it happened to me.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.